Namaste, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Better Bharat series with me, Deepti J. Varma, for Organiser. Today, we are being joined by Dr. Yelloji Rao Mirajkar, who is the international convener at the Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats Forum, the GIST Forum. He has done his PhD from the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru and his postdoc from Columbia University, New York. He's worked in the global R&D of the Colgate Palmolive company. He's today the member of Board of Overseers for Hindu University of America, as well as the Dharma Civilization Foundation. He's also the former executive director of the Hindu Swamsevak Sangh in USA. Along with is Dr. Rashmi Kulkarni. Namaste, Rashmi ji, who is
Namaste.
the coordinator of the Ahar Kranti mission, about which we're going to talk about today extensively. She is originally from Navi Mumbai. She's done a PhD in molecular genetics from the Ohio University of USA, as well as done her research in cancer genetics at the Weill Cornell Medicine in Qatar. She's also an entrepreneur in hydroponics. Thank you, both of you. Thank you for both of you for joining us today and taking our time to do this. We are going to talk about right away for our viewers about the Ahar Kranti mission, which was launched by Dr. Harshvardhan in 2021. So please take our viewers through, who do not know what this mission is all about and what is it doing to spread awareness regarding nutrition in India.
Thank you, Deepti ji, for having us in this episode. And interestingly, in 2021, there was a conversation within the JST team members. JST stands for Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats Forum. And the topic was being an international year of fruits and vegetables. What is that we can do? So I am basically from the research background.
Okay.
So every time you look into a problem, you want to see what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
What do you gain out of it? And how it is going to be beneficial. Because being outside India, our goal is to see how we can also be party in the developing India that is happening as we speak. When I looked into the research data, it was very clear, crystal clear what people say, that India is not ready yet for celebrating International Year as Fruits and Vegetables.
Why is that?
The fact, sorry?
Why was that?
It is very clear that India, in spite producing huge quantity of food items, much more than what we typically consume, all citizens put together, we still have malnourishment.
Yeah.
We still have undernourishment. Undernourishment is a statement that is totally related to economy of the individuals, and it is connected to that one. And there are lots of initiative that is happening in Bharat in terms of having a return on investment for the general masses, no matter in which sector they are. How about malnutrition? Why is it malnutrition? Because neither you nor me or the current generations are actually studying or understanding anything about the nutrition. When you don't know where you are going, you don't know where you are going to reach. Because you don't know what nutrition, and because we don't learn, we are undergoing this contradiction of malnourishment in spite of a lot of food items that is being produced in India. And whatever the shortcomings we are importing to a certain extent. And interestingly, in spite of we producing almost 3 or 4 times more calories than what we consume, we still import food. And our import food is more than what we export. So these are some of the contradictions in terms of the food production and food consumption. At the same time, when I say that for being healthy, you have to consume all sections of food items.
Yeah.
Chemically, you can call it as the proteins or the carbohydrates or the fats or dairy, and within that varieties. Because That is the only way one can fulfill the nutritional requirement that is required for our overall well-being. That is another contradiction. Then there is something third one. This is a pet which Rashmi ji always talks about it, is that we eat food for us. But God has created us with so many bacteria inside and outside of our body. I think at some point of time, I'll request Rashmi ji to elaborate a little bit more. So the point here is that the understanding of the gut microbiome, specifically in terms of the Ahara Kranti, is not at all understood, not at all recognized to the extent this is supposed to be. And therefore, we are just using our stomach, bear with me for the slang, something like a garbage box, when you think about it. And because we are doing that one, we are inviting the lifestyle disorders or non-communicable diseases.
Yeah.
And you can see the data in India, the cardio-related issues are going above the roof. So is diabetes. And so is cancer. Cancer is another story because of the chemicals, what we are eating to that an extent. Not that we have started eating now. We are eating it since, let us say, use of chemicals as fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides we are using. It is the advancement in the modern science in terms of the limit of detection of these chemicals in the food items has brought some limelight, but that is not good enough. If you want to really understand the severity, hear what it is, the latest information. Mother's milk is contaminated with the chemicals. No fault of the fetus, no fault of the growing child, they are also induced into the chemicals. And these are the contradictions. These are the reasons why we feel that India is not ready, was not ready then, is not ready now to celebrate one item as a year of fruits and vegetables.
Okay. You have talked about the mother's milk being contaminated. So are you going to start from that stage? Is that the main impetus of the program? The pregnant women and
I will let Rashmi ji to address this question.
Yeah.
Yes, so before I address that, thank you so much, Dipti ji, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much
I
for
want
joining
to
us.
focus on a few other aspects. Yelloji already covered a lot of those. But one wonderful thing he said is that we treat our stomachs like a garbage bin.
Yeah.
And I always give that analogy that is used in computer science, that garbage in, garbage out. That is exactly what each of us is doing. And I've heard many people say, most of my friends, family, all of them saying that I'm a very healthy eater. Well, food in the wrong combinations, in the wrong proportions, at the wrong time can be extremely toxic and unhealthy. So most people don't realize that. And while doing so, they are actually creating these toxic products in their bodies. They are creating something that I'm going to again talk about, leaky gut, which leads to majority of the chronic diseases that we know of, majority of the cancers that are caused by poor nutrition. Very shockingly, 42% of cancers are caused by poor nutrition. And how sad is that? If we talk about the allergies,
not preventable.
Yes, all of them preventable. All of the chronic diseases that people are having at very early ages now, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, you name it, everything is happening much earlier,
as early as 30s now.
higher severity, and at alarming rates. Even in children, we are seeing type 1 diabetes, and obesity is extremely common. I can't even tell you how much. So if we look at all of these things, we are doing the basic things wrong. We are eating at the wrong time. We are eating the wrong combinations, the wrong proportions. The diet is completely unbalanced. And if we look at all of the diets now, we are trying to simplify them into one pot meals. Or let me look at this blogger or whatever. This is a Insta-worthy shot. So let me make something like this. And even the children are having this. And there's this, takeaway culture or ordering 24/7 that's available on apps. So that is causing so much of a, havoc on not just our health, but we are also impacting our gut microbiome. So what the microbiome is, our body is not alone. We are living, or we have co-evolved with trillions of microorganisms that live in our bodies, and we need them. If we look at what we do, we are doing everything throughout the day to kill all of the microorganisms. We use everything possible, antibacterial and soaps, antibacterial, body wash. The water is sterilized, UV treated. Everything that we do in our life is trying to kill microorganisms. Do people know that microorganisms are a normal part of our lives? It is our invisible organ. It is an organ that does, I think, many more functions than all of our organs combined. So if we are not aware of this organ, what is going to happen? All of our choices are going to lead to something so disturbed. That is a major cause of many of the diseases that we are talking about today. So if we go back to mother's milk, as you rightly said, the whole basis of, even let's go back even before that, while the baby is in the mother's womb, or even preconception health, the nutrition of the mother is so important, especially when the baby is in the womb, that the mother's microorganisms that are present in her intestine, in her gut, in her body, in her womb, are all contributing to the growth of the baby. And most people are not aware of this. So it's not just the food, but the germs as well. So we are trying to increase the awareness of all of this so that we start right from the embryo, or even before that, preconception health, to the elderly stage. We are covering all of that in the mission Nahar Kranti that we are talking about.
And when you talk about that India, India is primarily still a country where 3 meals are cooked. We did not have the takeaway culture before, like abroad, people will just go out for their coffee right in the morning. So how is it, how important is it to go back to the basics and cook all your food at home? And is there the Ayurvedic principle coming into play, or the Sattvic diet coming into play for the anti-inflammatory diet, as you just said?
I love to address this as a mother. I
Yeah.
have done my best, or even beyond what I could do for my 2 children who are, quite young, 8 and 14 years old. I have done everything possible to give them homemade, healthy food
Yeah.
while working, while being extremely busy. I have my own company and I still manage to do that. But I think most people get bogged down with the idea of, oh my God, 3 meals, I have to cook all of this variety of food that I
Yeah,
need to
simple
give
thing
my
like,
family.
my mother always used to make dahi at home. And now I just like, I can never find that combination right. So, so that is something like, there's so many things we've started relying on packaged goods for. And I think dahi is something which has a
Yes.
lot of micro probiotics.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll give that one example. So there are many, many techniques that, we try to help people with that. There are things we can do. Firstly, either do it yourself, otherwise delegate it to other people who can do
Yeah.
it better. Like create community kitchens where, we get all of this healthy food delivered to people. When we are ordering food, why not order something healthy that is
From like
wholesome
home
and things like
cooks.
that?
Yeah.
The other thing we do is there is enough technology for people who can afford it. Like I started making dahi at home,
Mm.
because homemade dahi is totally different. It's a lot
Yeah.
healthier. Very recently, and not very recent, a few years ago, 6 years ago, I actually started making it.
Yeah.
And guess where I got the starter culture from? From New Jersey, from Yelloji's house, where I live in Doha, Qatar. So I got the starter from his place.
Yeah.
I use the instant pot to make yogurt. It is a very, very, very easy way of doing it. And I cannot find an excuse of not being able to make it.
Yeah, that's true.
So homemade or somebody else making it, which is similar
Yeah.
to homemade, there are enough options, and we have enough number of projects in Ahar Kranti to
Yeah.
educate people about all of this.
But how do we
I
stop
would,
contamination? Like, that is the main problem. If our milk is contaminated, our crops are contaminated, where like, so that is difficult to address. Even if you want to try eating local and seasonal, where like, so I'm sure like you are working at various levels to address this problem, right? So you're
yeah.
educating the
So,
farmers, yeah, please.
okay. So I have to connect what Rashmi ji mentioned, specifically about starting at home.
Yeah.
So let me share my screen and bring something to our own attention that will help. Okay, share screen. Rashmi ji illustrated the 2 points, right? One is the gut microbiome, or the overall microbes that we have in and outside of us. And the other one is cooking 3 times a day. It is a very big chorus. and how I'm going to do in this modern life. So let me share this one particular slide. Okay, so our ancestors have documented many of these things in terms of eating habits. It is for not just well-being, but also for the treatment. In the Western food diet or the food pyramid, there are chemicals.
Yeah.
And it also includes non-vegetarian items as a source that is required as a substitution to protein, because the vegetarian diet does not fulfill the need. So there are a lot of contradictions within the food pyramid. Okay, sorry. Okay, there are contradictions within the food pyramid. What is that? First one is, it is not suitable for the vegetarians or people who only eat egg and things like that, right? But is it really true? If you look around in India today, there are so many people who live beyond 70, 80, 90 years, and they're all vegetarians. How are they living? And beyond 70 today means it is above the normal average life expectancy in Bharat, which is 71 years or something like that. So obviously they are getting their protein somewhere. So we need to understand where this statement of vegetarian sources are not sufficient to fulfill the nutritional needs in terms of the protein. That is number one. I think I have the right slide now. I'm going to share it quickly. So there are lots of contradictions within the food pyramid. It's based upon the Western diet and it is not suitable. And as you know, today, the vegetarian population is increasing across the world. People are slowly but for surely recognizing, but the myth of vegetarian substitutes are not sufficient for the protein has to be squashed. Second, at the background of the COVID, the whole world has recognized the roles of the spices. Of course, we have recognized it long time ago. So the spices are built in our menu
In our
diet.
meals, yeah, that's true.
In our meals all the time. You take any meal,
Yeah.
there's a reason for these combinations. And Ayurveda dwells a little bit more, saying that whenever there is opposite food, there is also antidote in our Indian foods. And look at very interesting thing that India can offer. That's the elements from Ayurveda. Ayurveda incorporates swasthya, that is healthy elements, which means it addresses opposite foods. You know, one of the world famous drink, milkshake, it's an opposite food. A great example for the opposite food.
Yeah.
Yeah. You tick mark that I took dairy, you tick mark that I took fruits, but effectively it has no benefit on the body. And also, see, we are all appearance-wise different. So some person looks little stouty, some person looks very lean. No matter what they do, they cannot put on the weight. On the other one, no matter how much exercise do, whatever the diet do, they cannot lose the weight. This is all based upon the prakriti of the individuals, where the digestive power is different for different individuals. So that is not incorporated down in our diet. Because of all these things, what is happening? We're just consuming, right? Now, look into this, the new buzz called A2 milk from the ghee cow. The milk is good. But we need to look into what goes in is what comes out, isn't it?
That's true.
So what is being fed to the ghee cow?
What's being fed to the cow, yeah.
Very recently, I heard a very wonderful example. You know, let's say one of the best car, Ferrari, which is supposed to be running on the petrol. Now you put diesel into it.
Yeah.
What is the use of Ferrari? There's no use. Similarly, this what we feed to the cow and what we put as fertilizers to the plants is the source from where the chemicals are entering into our body. Now, Can we overcome this situation today? Probably no. Because we are 140 crore people. Today, if we transition from whatever format we are doing to fully natural farming, there will be millions and crores of people remaining hungry. We will not be able to fulfill. This is something that the awareness campaign, because of the importance of the chemicals-free food, it has to evolve. And I'm sure with the new and additional information that is coming from the impact of the chemicals, the research and the solutions will be definitely coming out. But as a common man, what is that I can do? That is a question I think we also need to provide some solutions so that people can contribute no matter whatever way it is. So there are 4 specific things I'll highlight.
Yeah.
One is, can we think of growing ourselves some food at our home? And what are those 4 places? Maybe my front yard, maybe my backyard,
Kitchen garden. Yeah.
maybe on my terrace,
Yeah.
maybe in the pots inside and outside.
Yeah.
And nowadays, people are using it as a fashion also, that aquaponics, hydroponics, and the vertical gardening. Still, they're all good, provided you are using natural chemicals and grow. In this, I also want to add one aspect of it, that foods travel miles and miles.
Yeah.
In India, the statistic says anywhere between zonal 150 to 300 kilometers. Sometimes the foods are imported for more than 500 kilometers. And when we import the food from other countries, it travels even thousands of miles.
What are we importing mainly? Fruits and vegetables? Or everything?
Some amount of the fruits, some amount of the vegetables, lentils, pulses, some of those things they import. Yeah. Now they add another thousands of miles. And what do they talk about it? Food miles, and therefore the carbon dioxide emission. Net zero.
Yeah, carbon.
What about the chemical fertilizers? All these chemicals, they also travel from plant to field, isn't it? How come nobody considers those things? So the awareness is in such a way that whether you are an individual or a head of the family, and if you are a producer, you should be cognizant about the ill effects that these chemicals are bringing.
Okay, so
Money
that
is not
brings us to,
everything.
that brings us to the point, how is it being done? How are you targeting all these heads?
Okay, so we have taken the first step, what you call it as, or maybe the second step. The first step is India being 140 million population. Let me see whether I have this one particular slide, which I may be able to illustrate very quickly, that being 140 crore population, how are you going to reach? What are the methodologies? For that, first thing what you should have is some common material that can
Which is
be
easily,
used,
also
yes,
easily understandable and digestible.
understandable, easily digestible for the common man and things like that. So Rashmi ji and her team, with about
Science.
50, 60 people, have developed some awareness material.
Yeah.
I will request Rashmi ji to give an idea, a glimpse about these awareness materials. Rashmi ji.
Yes, so if you allow me to share the screen, I can share this one. So what we did is our team actually went through a lot of scientific publications. Initially, we identified the gaps in all of the age groups. Now, if we look at all of the different age groups, I said that, preconception to the elderly, here we are talking about all of these different age groups. If we look at any particular age group, it needs something very, very different. What we do instead is, we cook one kind of a meal and everybody is supposed to or expected to have the same meal, irrespective of the age of that person. Even if it's a pregnant lady, I don't think she's eating anything that special.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps telling her that you need to eat for 2, which is not true. She needs specific nutrients that can support the growth of the developing brain of the baby. And because, the brain really grows very rapidly at that time. So there are many healthy fats that are required. There are many specific things that are required at that stage. If we look at the adolescents, for example, girls and boys, teenage girls and boys have very different nutritional requirements. So parents don't even know about that. They don't have all of these considerations. So we took all of these into account and looked at all of the scientific publications, international journals that were published, and then went on to make these educational modules. So I am not able to share the screen right now, but if I can do that, I can give an example of what we did. So we created a background module which could be shared with everybody so that we could highlight what the basic gaps in nutrition are for everybody, irrespective of age. So everybody can, benefit from this kind of a module where we talk about the basic gaps that people have in nutrition. And here we are talking about, very basic things like focusing on all of these age groups, as is shown here. And we focus on what are the biggest, concerns about diet and how these are leading to dietary risks and deaths due to, something that is very, very preventable. And then we talk about how malnourishment is affecting all of our organs in many different ways and how we increase the risk of all of these diseases by doing that, by just malnourishment. And by malnourishment, when we say this word, it seems like we are talking about, somebody who is very poor and who cannot afford nutrition. But unfortunately, all of us are malnourished, whether we can afford proper nutrition or not. It is because of a lack of, care about ourselves. We learn a lot of it in schools, colleges, but we just fail to follow it. And as I said before, 43% of cancers are preventable. They are because of, poor nutrition. So these are some of the things that we go through, nutrition and the brain. So people, when we think about brain development, most people do not know that brain development actually keeps on happening well into adulthood. It goes on till at least 25, if not 30 years of age. How many people are actually eating anything to keep, their developing brain in good health? How many adults are focusing on brain development? How many people are focusing on brain development for their children? And if we highlight what happens when children get enough protein, for example, this is an MRI image shown before protein supplementation and after protein supplementation. So there is a dramatic improvement in brain development just with protein supplementation. So this is a very, very critical time for brain development. This is just one example of what I wanted to show. So this is what we are trying to show for everybody, the entire population. Then we have very specific modules for pregnant women, for lactating women, for menopausal age groups, for elderly, for adolescents. What we have come up with, we have something for young children as well. But for adolescents and young adults, we have a very special addition where we have included social media and its influence.
Because puberty is nowadays setting in early, so we are prepubescent.
Why is that happening? It's happening because of all of these hormones, antibiotics, and all of the chemicals that are in the milk and the food. So they are causing this pre-puberty. And then when we talk about teens, pre-teens, and young adults, we are also, there's a very strong need to talk about the impact of social media influencers on body image and how the food choices are made by these pre-teens, teenagers, because most of them are on social media now. And all of the substance abuse, also we need to focus on that. Alcohol, cigarettes, everything is, very early exposure. These teenagers have a very early exposure to all of these substances. So we have included even that in the module, and that was very
they also, are you going to target them to collaborate in this mission?
Like so we are working with teachers and professors who are in universities, so that we give all of these sessions to the teachers so that they can take this message to their children if they are younger, or to the university students directly. We had these sessions in a few universities.
What is the reach been so far in India?
So Yelloji can talk about
so it. I will come to it in a second, and let me start sharing a little bit information on that one so that it will help much better.
Yeah.
140 crores is the target, right?
Yeah.
How do you want to accomplish? So we have 1 crore teachers teaching between class 1 to class 12.
Okay.
In an average, each teacher has access to about 30 students. Means through the students, they have an access to another 60 to 80, 90 crores as siblings, grandparents, and things like that. And the remaining population, they may not have children at home going to the school. So what we have envisioned is how we about using this awareness material, E to E, embryonic phase to end of life for the elders, in such a way that teachers will take the message to the students. And today, the students are the prince and princesses at homes, isn't it? So they will influence their own parents and the family environment, so that these 90 plus crores of the population can be very easily addressed through these curriculum, both formal and informal methodologies.
Yeah.
Those families where children are not there who are going to the school, we work with NGOs and their volunteers trying to reach the families, whether they are in rural or urban and everywhere in between. So if this is, it has to be having a practical way to reach. So what are we going to do? We work with the different organizations. To begin with, we will have these train the trainers prepared across the country. And what is the mechanism or the methodology? So you have to do multiple layers of train the trainer sessions. And to begin with, it will be at the national zonal level. Why? Because the materials what you have developed today are in English, and some amount of translations are happening. And therefore, using this bilingual approach, we may be able to develop quite a few trainers around the country in English and Hindi languages primarily. Later, they needs to be translated and implemented at the state level, and then the district level, and then the taluka, and probably villages or the clusters of villages, and finally reach the families or the students. And while going all these things, in addition to translations, we also need to work and collaborate with many others, including NGOs. So this is in terms of taking the awareness material to the common man. But is it good enough? Probably no, because this needs some additional support. And
yeah, that's
that
what I'm saying.
additional
This is consumer driven, right? What about
it
at
is
the
yes,
yeah.
it is consumer driven, but at the same time we touched upon one point, right? The chemicals, natural farming, how to reduce the food miles and everything. So we need to work in the other direction also.
So that other collaborators come on board.
One is the collaborator. Another one is, many of these things are
policymakers, yeah.
And for policymakers, you need to come up with the filtered and the cream of the research and recommendations. And for those reasons, we need to conduct seminars, we need to conduct conferences, symposiums, webinars, and whatnot. All these things engage with the research organization, national departments, ministries, and others. We may be able to recommend the policies to various ministries.
Yeah.
And if they are right, the ministries, what do? They have make them as a bulleted item.
Yeah, the budget.
Yeah. And make the infrastructure in such a way that they are doable. Just like Women and Child Development Ministry today, just like Ministry of Ayush. So these are the things. This is how we are envisioning.
Is this in the pipeline immediately? Is this something?
It is in the pipeline. It is in the pipeline. I will show you one more slide, because what is happening is we have bounced these ideas with several institutions, several organizations, and almost everyone, with no exception, they say this is a very important aspect.
Okay, in principle, yeah.
Right?
The okay,
very important thing.
Yeah.
See here, this is just a handful of list of different institutions, universities that we have reached, and they are working together, many of them. Even midday meal scheme program, we are working with Govardhan Eco Village, then Akshaya Patra, the Maya Chetana Foundation. We are also working with the Vijnana Bharati's many dimensions, whether it is Shakti or
So it's quite a
Vidyarthi Jnana
widespread
Mantra.
network already.
Yes, not only inside India, but also outside. For example, Garje Marathi International, they are also planning to work with us.
Okay.
And similarly, many of these ministries are also part of us.
Yeah.
And also, we are constantly in dialogue with the national research organizations. The good news to the audience and to you, Dipti ji, is that the Ministry of Ayush went through our the awareness materials, and they have taken GST Ahar Kranti as knowledge partner for Ministry of Women and Child Development as well as Ministry of Ayush. And we are closely working with National Institute of Ayurveda, situated in Jaipur. And we are also entering into memorandum of understanding with All India Institute of Ayurveda in Delhi.
Okay.
If that is not good enough, Mission Utkarsh, it is ancillary districts, 10 districts in India, around the country, which from the viewpoint of the nutrition, Suposhan, they are at the bottom of the pile. And Ministry of Women and Child and Ministry of Ayush together, they are taken this Utkarsh to test and experiment by intervening with nutritional, balanced nutrition and a systematic study. And we are also have taken as a knowledge partner in this particular program.
Okay. That's amazing. Is there anything else you would like to take us through in terms of what are your challenges, or what are you and what is already working in you've already told us the collaborators that are coming on board. What are your immediate challenges that you would like to address? Obviously,
Okay,
the scale
let's
of
see.
the scale would
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So this is a very spider chart, So this is where we started a couple of years ago. So who are our audience? Society, families, teachers and students. When we talk teachers and students, it is both formal and informal curriculum that is related. And to go in that direction, we have to have some awareness material, and that is what we have developed. And we are going in the different directions to capture the whole 140 crores. It may be in terms of the language, it may be in terms of the format, it may be in terms of the content, and we also need to work very closely with agricultural industry in India, whether it is a private or government. We have to work with them because that is the only way we can scale up the natural farming and scale down the chemical farming.
Yes.
So while this is going on, now there are some challenges. There are big roadblocks. There are, what should I say, people saying yes,
but not following up.
or many more, but doers we need.
Yeah, doers.
We need to roll in influencers.
Yeah.
We have to roll in the decision makers, because to my understanding, if I am wrong, I will be very happy, but to my understanding, the policies what is being placed today, the activities that is what going on today, are wonderful to certain extent, but not good enough for this 140 crores. For example, let us take two institutions. One is Ministry of Ayush, other is Women and Child Development.
Yeah.
If you really look into their materials, unbelievable amount of material they have. They do have a wonderful skeleton. Do you know how many Anganwadi workers are there in India?
No, please tell me.
There are close to 1 million Anganwadi workers are there, and there are about 2 to 2.5 million. No, it is the other way. 1 million Asha workers and 2 to 2.5 million Anganwadi workers are there.
What is it? Are they underutilized, or they don't have the right material to work with?
Okay, that is a very interesting question. Actually, Ministry of Women and Child, hats off to them. They have created a lot of materials, wonderful materials. I feel the life is missing in it. the instruction is there.
Yeah.
The information is coming through the materials. And there is some amount of
Is it
life
dated?
is there that, why
Yeah.
you have to do. But actually, holistically,
Mm.
see, Women and Child Development Ministry deals with whom? Lactating mother,
Yeah.
then expecting mother, then the children, teenage girls, and mothers in general. Okay. Now, whatever the materials they have, that material needs to be made inspirational
Yeah.
and motivational. Earlier conversation,
And also, we are a
Rashmi ji
very young country, so it has to be like, it has to appeal to the youth.
yes, there's no one solution fits all, but needs to be approached in a different fashion from multiple angles. But
Yeah.
there has to be something called, what you call, in this 21st century, we all live between rewards and the punishment. What does it mean? We don't know what is the benefit of better nutrition, positive nutrition. So we are just using our stomach as a garbage. But if you understand what are the benefits, when it comes to food, the benefits is not only for you, it's for your future generations as well.
Yeah.
Similarly, what is the fear factor? Okay, if you don't practice nutrition to the best of your abilities, of course, your lifespan will be less. Of course, whatever the lifespan, you'll be dealing with all these lifestyle disorders, going to the doctors, instead of eating food, eating medicine as food. And therefore, what are the consequences? Again, not for only you, but also for your future generations. If
Yeah.
you just have a simple headache, Deeptiji, tell me your performance on that day.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, when you have these lifestyle disorders, every day dealing with all those things, then I have this pain, I have that pain, whatnot. So we have to think about not only highlighting the problem, but also we have to give them the solutions. And that solution has to be acceptable. And with 140 crores, it is not one way the solution can be acceptable. For me, maybe Deepti ji tells, I listen. For someone, Modi ji has to tell, they will listen.
Yeah.
Someone has to listen from Rashmi ji. So those things are there. Those are the bigger challenges. And what is that we need to do? We need to think about a big program, something like Swachh Bharat,
Yeah, like Abhiyan of that scale.
Abhiyan of that scale. And I'm very happy to learn that Ministry of Women and Child is working with the 19 other ministries.
Okay.
So,
So
in other words, the skeleton to reach the people, whether it's for information, for the
like,
instruction, is
even
already
during
there.
the pandemic, all these ministries came together. So I think
Yes.
that interest like that exists, that communication exists.
But you know what? I think you may have to thank the Ministry of Women and Child, because in 2018 it started and pandemic came only in 2020.
Oh, so it was them who started. Yeah.
Yeah. So from 2018, they have done the skeleton of reaching to 19 different ministries. That's my understanding. And instead of controlling it at the center, they have disbursed into the state. See, that is what giving the empowering the local,
Yeah, the local
regional
government is
is very,
important.
very important.
Yeah.
I think hats off to them. But the thing is now, how can you make it even more qualitative?
Yeah.
How can you use it to reach very effectively?
So the
That
network
is
is
where
there.
we are
You just
thinking.
need it. Yeah, the network is there. The material is there. Now it has to come together.
Yes, yes. So, and we have a tested, Bharat Abhiyan is tested, Make in India has been tested. All those things are there. Now, I think this is a time for Bharat to come up with a wonderful balanced nutrition package, because no other system has this particular approach. And this approach includes overall well-being. And in case if you don't, it will also help you treat the diseases. For example, let me tell you this my latest learning from Ayurveda. When people eat food, what do they say? Oh, I digest it.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you digest it? You are eating solids, you are eating liquids, you are eating temperature, different temperature ingredient. You're also consuming air along with that, and there's also space. So no matter how you eat food, that needs to be converted into as a raw material for generation of our tissues required for our body, isn't it? What modern science talks about it? No one talks about it. You are putting mass, weight, obesity, and so what is it? Eat less protein.
Yeah.
You are getting diabetes, we eat less carbohydrate, less sugar.
But
That's
also,
not the way our body
but
works.
when you're developing this material for a country like India, it'll also have to be very region based, right? When you're educating people, depending on what is local to them, what is like, a lot of coastal areas depend a lot on, coast like seafood. So, are you also developing the material in that way? That
Yes, I actually would like to answer that. We have been, focusing on local and seasonal foods a lot. It is extremely important that, as Yelloji rightly mentioned about the food mice, it's not just the environmental impact of it, our microbiome and our digestive capabilities and what we get out of the food that we eat is much higher. It's a very different level if it is local and seasonal. So that is one more aspect that we try to cover here, that the food choices that people make, instead of using anything exotic, try and choose local and seasonal. When we do that, it's not just a lecture about eating seasonal and local. Now we are working with Sweri, which is an institute in Pandharpur, very well-known engineering university, to build an app about Ahar Kranti, which will be in a regional language. So we are going to start in Marathi first, and that will include information about the local regional foods that are available in Maharashtra. And when we do that, we'll take this app and build it in other languages so
Yeah,
that
I was gonna get to that about the
yes,
online, the app thing, because it's so much better that if somebody can just directly talk to an expert, maybe, or
yes.
just run through what they're doing.
So as you said,
I think,
if we need to actually connect to the youth, we have to figure out
yeah,
what are the misconceptions about food. They are completely different than ours. And that's why we have to go and talk to them. We do that all the time, go and connect with the youth in the colleges. And it's pretty surprising what their ideas are about food and nutrition. So taking
Yeah.
all of that into account, we use all of these resources. We are on social media and we use many different platforms. We are into app development and all of these things that are going to help people. Animation, so making videos that even children can watch, using all of these ideas to take it to as many people as possible in different formats.
okay, that
See,
sounds
in
good.
this, your question
Yeah,
about being regional, so much diversity. See, the India is kind of struggling still, I believe, in terms of what is the recommendation at the national level. It is something that we need to think about collectively, because India is such a diverse country.
yeah,
There are different kinds of agricultural zones, different kinds of food items. The same tomato that is grown in Tamil Nadu is slightly different from grown somewhere in the north or the east or the west. So the National Institute of Nutrition will have a challenge to come with a recommendation. And they cannot also come with a recommendation at the state level. So what is that they can do? They can think about how different agricultural zones, and considering that what are the food items, and considering that they may be able to give some amount of recommendation at the national standards. But that will be an approach from chemicals viewpoint of view, proteins, carbohydrates, but not necessarily the lentils, not necessarily the palak, not necessarily the dal, varieties of vegetables. That doesn't come in that way. So we need to think about how can we have this diet for well-being. Can it be local, which everyone agrees that it has to be? Can it include seasonal? Yes, definitely. Can it be natural grown? Yes. And at the same time, when we eat, do we incorporate all that is required for our body? In one of the conversation with one Ayurveda talk, I learned that our body needs about 53 nutrients, minerals and vitamins. And the only way we can get them is by popping up different kinds of food items prepared with the different colors of vegetables, fruits, and whatnot. Of course, people talk about the vitamin supplements, but we all know scientifically also it is proven that the absorption from those elements are not necessarily that great. Our body is natural, and the things that we consume should be also natural. So some of these things we need to think about it. The other aspect also need to recognize is that we cannot give a recommendation to anybody at the national level. It is local experts, and they have to come together. And that
They
is
have
the
to come
reason when
together.
we talk
Yeah.
about awareness, where we include national research organizations, academic institutions,
Yeah.
Ayurveda fraternity, everyone would like to include.
Okay, that sounds good. Is there anything that we have missed in today's chat? I think
Yes,
we
there are
covered.
2 points I would like to
Okay,
bring.
all right.
Just 2 points. I think I
Yeah.
will conclude right after that one. The first one is, what are we going to get at the end of this Abhiyan awareness campaign? I think this summarized very nicely in this particular slide. Okay. See, what did we talk about? We need to increase awareness in terms of what we eat and how we eat, all those things. Now, in short, if it is balanced nutrition, it is definitely going to help your life expectancy.
Yeah.
Ayushman Bharat. Because we're talking about the healthy foods, the healthy habits, and this and that
Yes.
and everything. Now, if you look into Ayurveda elements, where we call as custom-based diet for everyone, so that you will manage your health rather than my appearance. The health is more important than everything. So if you incorporate the elements from Ayurveda, your life will be not only long, but it is also being healthy and happy. The third one is recognizing the ill practices that we are doing today, because of which even mother's milk has the chemicals, and our food has chemicals and all those things. If we start addressing it, we are investing in our future of our children and their children. So India will definitely become Vidwan Bharat. And now it is easier to say that, we can make Ayushman, we can make Vidwan, we can make Ayurvedic, but the ingredient for that is our Krushi, agricultural farming. We need their support. We need their help. With the lot of urbanization that is happening in the country, the agricultural fields are diminishing in a very rapid scale. There has to be some alternative methods, and only people that can do is our agricultural sector in Bharat. So if these 4 pillars are accomplished, then India will definitely become Samruddha, Atmanirbhar. Now about Vishwaguru, I want to make this final statement that due to COVID, whatever the wealth of knowledge we have in our system, in our text, in our practices, has come to the limelight.
Yeah.
Whether it is immunity, what was the statement made by scholars in 2020 in the month of March? That India being highly dense, with very poor health infrastructure, and
Will be
not
very badly
so
hit. Yeah.
hygienic. There will
Yeah.
be crores and crores of people will be
That's
dead. That was the forecast. Fast forward 18 months. What did the same research scholars mention? This is published in BBC, by the way, that India, in spite of being done, in spite of poor health structure, in spite of not so paranoid about hygiene, successfully countered COVID compared to any other developed nation in the world.
Yeah.
So we have, whether in terms of the practices, or in terms of the ingredients in the food, or in terms of the combination of the food, and what is the combination that is required for, let us say, kapha, pitta, vata personality, whatever it is, and how to eat, what to eat, when to eat. Desha, kala, hita, mita is the slogan, I believe, in Ayurveda. So if you follow that, This is not a rocket science. Landing rocket on the moon is a rocket science. But this changing our food habits is no.
Going back to the
Because
basics.
it is so simple, it
Yeah.
is a behavioral change. So
Yeah.
there has to be constant and continuous iterations. So in our Ahara Kranti team, we always have two different versions. What is that one version? Is awareness is the end of the goal, or awareness is end of the beginning and start up the new something. So it is not just to train the trainer modules, people go to the training today and tomorrow they change the habits. No, it's not going to happen. It has to be a continuous and constant iteration should be there. How can we rope in the influencer? How can we rope in the decision makers? How can we rope in that today it may not look as a return on investment, but if you want to invest in our future, we need to adjust to a certain extent to today. A lot of these things are there. I will give you one last example about this year being International Year of Millets, and I will close. What do people talk about millets? One is obviously it brings health. Second, it helps the soil health. And the third one is it is also good for the farmers. That was say.
Yeah.
Individual health, soil's health, and the business for the farmers. But is it? Isn't it all? No, because the millets has something else also to add. And what is that? Net neutrality to a larger extent because they don't survive good in the chemical industry. Second, because you are increasing the health of the country, isn't it your economy of the country is becoming better?
Yeah. Yes.
Third, what is the sloka? Na choraharyam, na cha rajaharyam, na cha bhratrubhajyam, na cha bharakari, veye krute vardhate eva nityam, vidya dhanam sarvadhana pradhanam. These investment in our future generations, you are increasing the what is that? Education, vidya index in the country. Isn't it is something that is going to bring about
Yes.
due to the
Overall
year of
health.
millets and Ahara Kranti?
Yes.
But my fear is 2021 International Year of Fruits and Vegetables, whole world has forgotten. Are we going to do the same mistake with the International Year of Millets 2023? We have glorified. Are you going to continue to glorify or we continue to practice in our life? I think it is better to be the later one rather than the first one.
Thank you, Dr. Yelloji. Thank you, Dr. Kulkarni. We wish you all the best in everything that you're trying to achieve. And we hope more and more people collaborate with this Abhiyan. And it's a huge success because it's for the future generations, it's for the well-being of the entire nation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Deepti,
much
for
for
giving us an opportunity to showcase what is happening. And it is our desire that the audience will observe to a certain extent. We are 100% sure that you will not be able to observe everything today, but
But it's a
please
start,
think about
right?
it.
Yeah.
This is the start and think
Start of
about
the
it. And try to involve. And if you practice and you yourself will get inspired, we can cite hundreds of examples of people who have changed their diet and because of which they not only have become very healthy and they also have become very productive. I think this Abhiyan is not for us. It is the Abhiyan for all of us.
All of us, yeah.
And that is one. And yeah, with that, we wish all of you also to be healthy and live happily for very long. And the goal is Shatayushi.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.